Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be on cleaning a gun and lubricating it. So my way of cleaning and lubricating may be a little bit different than the way that you do it. I'll kind of explain the reasoning behind the way I do things the way that I do them. Obviously, first of all, you want to make sure that the gun's unloaded, which it is. This is probably, let me touch a little bit more on this. So that's probably one of the more important parts, making sure that the gun is unloaded. There's been multiple people who thought that their gun was unloaded and they went to disassemble it and kaboom, gun went off. Or probably in their words, oh, it just went off unexpectedly. Multiple people that this has happened to. So before you start the disassembly process, you have to make sure that this weapon is unloaded. Because once you pull that trigger, that's it, that's done. And with the Glock model, you do have to depress the trigger for disassembly purposes. And there are other firearms out there where you have to depress the trigger to get the gun to come apart. And if you didn't unload that gun and you go to do that, bad things are going to happen. I know there was a cop from our area who he had a pistol and he sent a round through his hand, and it was from I believe the story was he went to go clean the gun, and obviously bad things happened. So yeah, always double check, make sure it's unloaded, pull your magazine out, rack and lock the slide, do a visual and physical check, make sure there's nothing in there, and then you can start the disassembly process. Alright, so we'll just break it down to its basic components. For me, I got the weapon light. I usually just keep the weapon light on there. I don't go through the process of taking it all the way off, and I leave it like that. For your basic cleaning, this is the furthest that you need to go. Now, when I take a gun into the pool, go to the water park, go out to the ocean, beach, whatever, and my gun goes into the water, then I do a detailed cleaning. That's when I take the slide plate off and pull all the internals out, rinse those, get any salt water out of it, re-lubricate it, put it back together. Same with here. I take the assembly inside here, take all the guts out, rinse them with fresh water, get all the salt water out, or chlorine, whatever, completely dry everything, lubricate it, put it back together. That's really the only time I do a full detail cleaning. That, or if I've been in a training class and the gun has been in the dirt, in the mud, in the rain, in the elements, have shot 1,000, 2,000 rounds, something like that, like it's been through a bunch of crap, then I might consider doing a full detail clean where I take all the parts apart and clean those. But for the most part, this is the furthest that I go, and it's really the furthest that anyone really goes. There's not that many people who will take the time to learn how to fully disassemble this thing or their gun, whatever, and clean it like that. This one doesn't look too terribly bad. It's mostly got a bunch of body lint and body dust on it. That seems to be the the common dirtying factor when it comes to your EDC, is you accumulate a lot of dust and body lint onto your gun and your carry gear, and I just go through and clean that off every once in a while. This gun doesn't really need a cleaning. I haven't done a whole lot with it. Even when I go shooting, if I go to the range and I put 100 rounds out, put a couple hundred rounds, whatever, I don't go and clean the gun right afterwards. I usually wait until I get about 500, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 rounds into a gun before I decide I want to do any cleaning with it. Call it laziness, what have you. I know that I can go to the range right now, put a couple hundred rounds through this, throw it back in the holster, wait a couple months, go back, put another 100 rounds through, put it back in the holster, wait a couple months, and know that it's still going to be good the next time I get it. So I don't clean it every single time that it gets shot. However, with that being said, when I do go to the range and I feel the need that I should probably, clean the gun, I prefer to do my gun cleaning at the range. That way, when I put the gun all the way back together, I fire one round. Actually, I'll fire two. I'll fire a couple rounds just to make sure that everything went back together fine and there's no issues with this gun. That's my ultimate function check after cleaning, is I'll clean the thing and I'll fire 2 rounds. And I tell people that, and they're like, "Wow, you just cleaned your gun." Yeah, I did. And you need to function check your gun after you clean it. Make sure everything went back together fine, nothing's broken. But you just cleaned it. Yeah, it's cool. It's a Glock. It don't have to be pristine condition. Like it can be dirty. It'll be okay. That just throws people for a loop sometimes. They don't get it. When it comes to cleaning the components, I have a couple different things. So usually I'll have a rag of some sort, doesn't matter, or an old sock. Like if you wash your clothes and you got one sock that you can't find and the other sock is just by itself, well, you can take that one sock by itself and just turn it into your gun rag sock and use it to wipe stuff down. So I got a sock here that I couldn't find the other mate to, and then just have a regular rag that I'll use for cleaning purposes. If I notice there is a bunch of gunk down in here, I'll use a solvent of some sort. You can use any off-the-shelf solvent, or you can use something like brake cleaner, whatever. It all works the same. The key thing to remember about the slide is you want gravity to work in your favor, and you want the muzzle pointed down. Reason being is if we hold this slide in this position just the way you see it, and I start spraying stuff in here, whatever I spray, gravity is going to take a hold of, and it can go down into the firing pin area or the striker area, the channel. And over time, just spraying and stuff dripping down into there, it can get gunked up in there, and that can cause the striker to not strike as hard and have a light primer strike and have issues with the gun firing. So I always use gravity to my advantage. So when I spray and take the brush to it, gravity's pulling everything away from the hole. So always have your slide muzzle pointed down when you spray and scrub to keep anything from going into the striker channel. Barrel, same concept. With solvents, anything works. I'll spray the outside, wipe it down, and then spray a little bit on the inside, and then I'll run a brush through it. Now I have a couple different attachments here, or a couple different options. One, I do have a cleaning rod. I don't prefer the cleaning rod. I do have this little cleaning cable. I do not know where I got this from or who makes it, but it has a little eyelet on the end for putting cleaning patches on there, and then you can attach your little bristle on the end. I think this one is the one that comes in the Glock case. I I still have, of course, the Glock cleaning rod, which has a little eyelet built into it. I'll use either one of these. It doesn't really matter to me. Both of them work just as well. But I tend to use this one more often, but it doesn't really matter. I don't have a huge preference on it. Spray brush. The reason why I do like using this more is because I can follow the path of the bullet. And what I mean by that is the flow of this thing. I like to go with the flow of the bullet, so I'll come in through the breech and then pull it through just the same direction that the bullet goes in, which you obviously cannot do that with just a rod. That's a me thing. I mean, it's not something that's totally necessary. It's not going to be a make or break kind of moment, but that's just what I prefer to do. That's how I prefer to do things. But I would be, spraying this with solvent. Recoil spraying, I mean, you can wipe it down with a rag. Whatever excess solvent and gun oil is on there will be just fine for the recoil spraying. And you drop it off to the side there. No other issues. The only time that you really want to really heavy clean that is your gun's been in the mud from training, stuff like that. With the frame itself, I again use the concept of gravity. So I'll hold this upside down and take a gun brush, or if you have like an old toothbrush or something like that, and you get your new toothbrush out, you can take your retired toothbrush and turn it into a gun brush. But this is just a normal gun brush. I'd spray it with solvent, and then I'll just get in there and I'll scrub this area right in here. I'll scrub the guide rails and back in here, but I'll hold it upside down while I do that. That way none of the contaminants and particulate matter fall down into the trigger assembly area. I'll just do it upside down, and then I'll be done with the cleaning after that point. Like, I don't go like full detail, like white glove inspection kind of cleaning with it. I hit the high points, knock down the big fouling and everything, get all that cleaned off, and then I'll lube it up and put it back together. Some people like to go through and get it so clean that when they take a white cleaning patch through the barrel, it's white when it comes out. There's no more color on there. I don't get like that. I just make sure that I get the big deposits of stuff out, and I'll leave it as it is. Again, it's a Glock. It's going to work. When it comes to lubrication, you can use oil if you want to. I do not prefer to use oil because oil just doesn't normally always stay where you put it. I prefer to use grease. Use extreme. This is a SuperTech extreme pressure multi-duty complex high temp grease. Grease tends to stay where you put it pretty well. Stands up to heat. Oil, on the other hand, it kind of for people who got AR-50 or AR-15s, you see this a lot. Or even the 1911s, you'll put oil inside the gun, you put it back together, and you start seeing oil seeping out everywhere from like pins and stuff, because oil it doesn't stay where you put it very well. The grease, I prefer to use the grease for the lubricant. Now, I will use the oil for a protective covering or a protective film. So I'll just take a little cleaning patch or a corner of the rag and put some oil on there, and I'll wipe the internals down in here, put a little film of oil on there, do that, and then I'll take the lithium grease and I'll use that pipe cleaner, and I'll take the lithium grease and I'll put it on the guide rails right in here. So that's a point of contact. That's metal on metal. So I'll put grease here, and then I'll take a little bit of grease, not a whole lot. I'll just dip the finger in there, put it on here, and I'll just go around the barrel itself and put a film of grease around here, because your point of contact with this is right in there. So I'll do the grease right in there, and that's it. That's all. It's the only place I put the grease at. A little bit on the barrel, and then the guide rails right there, because that's where points of contact are going to be. I don't use the oil for the lubrication. I just use the oil for a protective film over the gun to slow down any rusting issues or anything like that. Then I'll put the gun back together, and like I said, I prefer to do it at the range. That way I can fire me a round or two as an ultimate function check. But if not, then if I'm at home or somewhere where I can't fire the gun after cleaning because I'm in the city, something like that, then I'll still do a function check. You rack the slide back, put it on there, note that the trigger resets, point gun in safe direction, pull trigger, hold trigger, rack the slide, let up off the trigger, trigger resets, and I'll pull again just for good measure. So that tells me that the inside is working pretty good as an ultimate, or not an ultimate function check, but as a kind of an okay function check to see if the striker is doing pretty good. You can take like a number 2 pencil or one of those big ink pens and just drop it down the barrel and just have it point at the ceiling and pull the trigger, and that striker will hit the back of that pencil or pen and have it flying out the barrel. It's actually kind of cool to watch, but that's only if I'm not able to actually shoot the gun. Another important thing after you clean the gun is to check out the magazine, see if it needs to be cleaned. Generally, the magazines don't have to be cleaned unless you've dropped them down into the mud or whatever, and then just unload all the rounds from it. You can take it apart, spray it out with water, and dry it completely and put it back together. You don't have to put any grease or oil in there or anything like that. The magazine should be dry. But check your magazines whenever you go to clean your gun as well, because that's one thing that a lot of people overlook. That is about it for cleaning the Glock pistol. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down in the comment section. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.